Hello and welcome back, guys. Thank you for tuning in to our first episode of having our first guest
with video.
with video. Yeah, with video. So we're super excited. Uh, yeah, Ricardo, want to take it on?
Yeah, so today we have the pleasure of interviewing Edgar Yanes. He was a close friend of mine while attending Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, coming up all the way from National City, San Diego, California.
Woohoo!
And he's currently a turbo machinery manufacturing engineer at Blue Origin in Seattle. And I don't know if you saw our
uh,
Instagram post and our
yes.
first the picture of him, but actually his first time traveling outside of California was to go check out his new job. So how was that? Like, tell us a little bit about that.
So just the first time experience or just
Or
in general?
just introduce yourself, I guess.
Okay,
I
well,
mean,
hey
we know
guys.
you.
My name's Edgar. Like Ricardo was saying, we attended Cal Poly together, made a really good bond and really close friendship. So consider him one of my very close and hopefully lifelong friends from, this point forward. Um, and Esther as well, I met her in Cal Poly through Ricardo. So she became a really good friend. And
Hmm.
we're here for the first very podcast. I'm pretty honored for you guys choosing me. So, um, in terms of your question, yeah, it was my first time actually getting on an airplane. It's kind of funny, right? My degree is aerospace, and I've never been on an airplane, so it was very very surreal. The company was nice enough where I was in kind of like the later stages of the interviews, and I had already accepted the position. So they decided to fly me out for like about a week just to check out pretty much the area. I got pretty much chaperoned pretty much by a real estate agent, I guess, who was going to either find me an apartment, a townhouse, a condo, home, pretty much anything of my choice. Um, and it was pretty cool because everything was paid for essentially. The only thing I had to really provide was just the place where I wanted to be or go, like the hotel, pick the hotel and pick a car, which is they provided as well. So um, when I arrived, it was totally different from San Diego. Obviously, in San Luis Obispo, California, super sunshine state. So over here, it was. I guess I got here in the right time because it was still very, very similar to San Diego in terms of the weather. But there was a couple random times where it started raining. So I'm like, oh, I haven't seen rain in forever. So it was a little surprising. And then my very first day here, I didn't realize the geography, so it was not getting the sunset wasn't setting until like 11, and I was like, up and awake, and I'm like, what's going on? And then by the time I realized it, I felt super tired. Looked down, and it's like 10:30, and I'm like, why is the sun still outside? And I guess these sunsets super super late. The norther you go up in the hemisphere, which didn't occur to me because I don't really travel too much, and that was pretty amazing. So it's kind of cool. Yeah, that
Yeah.
was kind of my first experience, just landing and meeting people, or just landing in Seattle, pretty much.
That's cool. Yeah, we actually went up there for probably like 3 or 4 days, and it was definitely a lot greener than what
Yeah.
we're used to.
Yeah, but it rained the first day we got there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was like on and off throughout the time we were there.
Yeah. I didn't like
That's
it, but props to
that's
you.
that's one thing that's super different, and like you just mentioned, is the trees. So literally, I go outside and I have like a forest pretty much, and I'm so used to being in like an apartment or living in a trailer where we don't have too much land, I guess, or space. So you see your neighbor, or, you can hear them because they live right on top of you and stuff. But it's kind of
Mhm.
refreshing over here, where it's kind of more naturey, a lot more greener, like you said.
Yeah, so you mentioned, going on an airplane for the first time, being an aerospace engineer is kind of like ironic. Was this your dream job when you were a kid? Like to be an aerospace engineer? Or how did you get to this?
So it's funny you mentioned that because I reflect on that a lot, and I feel like thinking about it, it came kind of full circle. I never really even knew what an engineer was because my parents come from a very poor background. I'm like first generation immigrant. They were literally illegal, when they came through. They were the first ones to come. So they pretty much quit school when I was born. just I believe to provide for me, I guess, become parents. My dad worked construction, but before he did that, he did a lot of dishwashing kind of stuff on the side, and my mom was a stay-at-home mom. So just like the whole experience, it was totally different. I like I said, I didn't know I wanted even what an engineer was. My parents didn't really influence me in that regard because they were just there to make it. They were hardworking, and they're just that's kind of the values they instilled in me. Just like work hard. And well, one thing my mom did for me is she enrolled me in a lot of programs. Like when I was younger, like music and just physical activity classes and stuff like that, karate, different things that I think stimulated me more and kind of gave me a lot of curiosity when I was growing up. So I remember when I was a little kid, I'd always say like I want to become an astronaut. I want to become an astronaut. I don't know why. I just thought it was super cool. And as I got older, I was always really good at math. I played a violin and teaches you how to listen to pitch and different frequencies, things you don't know that is kind of related to science. It also teaches you how to count and divide by fractions and stuff. So all that stuff kind of towards my end of my career kind of culminated into this like, oh, I wanted to become a math teacher when I graduated from high school. That was my initial goal. I'm just good at math. That just become something kind of basic. But then when I started going to college, that's when I was like, you know what? I'm into science. It's more than just math. So what can I become? And then I'm like, oh well, that's when I heard the term engineer. And then I'm like, well, what the heck is an engineer? And then I was like, oh, it's a person who uses math, applies it, and creates things. And I'm like, oh, I like to take things apart ever since I was little. Play with Legos. Growing up, I started doing mechanic work and stuff like that on my own car. So I just like to take things apart, put them back together. So then that's when I started, realizing I'm like, oh, look, what is this engineering degree or career? And I started with civil engineering because all of my friends in the field were like, let's become civil engineers. I'm like, yeah, sure, dude. I don't know what it is, but it sounds kind of cool. I want to become an engineer. And the more I looked into it, um, not a knock on civil engineers or nothing, but I was like, stuff is
Watch what
just
you
kind of
say.
stationary. It doesn't move. Um, it's a highway or it's a building. I don't know. It doesn't. I kind of like moving parts. That's when I came across mechanical engineering, and I just was going for that. That was my main goal. And before I decided to transfer, the reason I picked aerospace, no lie, was because I was comparing salary wages, and I saw a big old pay discrepancy between like aerospace and mechanical, and I was like, wait, what's the difference in classes? I looked at the class curriculum. It was literally one extra class. The class was Introduction to Engineering. And I'm like, well, if I'm going to take an Introduction to Engineering and they're going to pay me 30K more to start my first career job, let me become an aerospace engineer. And I, I did not have a clue what the heck an aerospace engineer was until I looked it up. And then I'm like, oh, you know what? They make jets, rockets, bombs. So a lot of crazy stuff. So that's why I decided to go with aerospace. And again, once I kind of just graduated and look back, I'm like, well, might not be an astronaut, but I'm kind of helping them become astronauts and get up to space. So pretty close, close enough. And you can never say never. Maybe I will become an astronaut. Apply for NASA or something. You never know.
Yeah, it was fun. I think, similar to you, I didn't really know what like entailed aerospace, and I'm sure you can agree with me when we got to Cal Poly, we didn't realize it was pretty different than the mechanical track.
Yeah, definitely. Super
So,
challenging, man. For a while, I thought I was in a computer science degree major due to with all the programming we did. So
yeah, it was super helpful. So,
yeah,
I wanted to say, like, I don't know how long you spent at a community college. I know I spent several years, probably spent like 6, 7 years at a community college, trying to find my way there. And over the time, I had to, work part time and full times in some occasions. And I know going back to Cal Poly, I know you were working at at Home Depot. And
yeah.
how did you balance like having to work a job and trying to go to school? And how did you overcome that?
Well, to be honest, man, you just have to be real honest with yourself. Um, for a while, dude, like I initially right out of high school, I went to community college, right? But I was kind of still in party mode, and messed up my first year, got on probation, and decided to drop out because I was like, you know what, this isn't a life. It's about money. You graduate, become 18-year-old, you get your first job and start collecting some paychecks, and that's what you think it is. So I decided to focus on that. So I actually dropped out of my first year, and I was 19. And I was thinking, okay, this whole next year I'm just gonna focus on working, working, working. I'm gonna make a lot of money. Um, Fortunately, it was 2008, and I think the recession hit, and the whole plan of me having that extra money never happened. I ended up just having like part-time jobs, and then when I turned 21, it was probably like a year and a half after I realized, like, well, this whole plan of me making money ain't making me money. So the only real thing I can do is go back to school. I got to get my stuff together, and not be like my first time. If I'm really gonna commit to this, I have to start doing it. But what was really difficult was, since I had dropped out and they had put me in probation, which I would not advise. If you're gonna go to school right after you go to high school, really focus on it. Try to stay off probation. Just go to school and really put it first. Because what made it difficult for me is I ended up staying in community college probably close to what Ricardo said, around 6 or 7 years, because I went back to school when I was 21, and I didn't get to Cal Poly till I was 27, 28, so 6, 7 years. And what really screwed me up was me being on probation. Went back to school. They told me, "Hey, guy, you're coming back. Congratulations, whoop whoop de doo. But unfortunately, you already screwed us up once. We don't really trust you. We're only gonna let you take one class at a time or two classes at a time. And if you really think about it, if you take one class, and if you're in a semester system, you're gonna waste 3 unit semester or 4 unit semester, maybe 5 unit if you take a math class. That's 5 unit class or something like that for 6 months. And if you're trying to transfer and graduate and do all this stuff, you need to take at least 15 units, for 2 years, 3 years consecutively to really reach your goals. So imagine that 6 months and you're taking a 5 unit class maximum, you're not going to make it. So my first 2 or 3 years in community college was a struggle because I kind of had to redeem myself in a sense, bring my grades back up, um, make up the classes I got an F on or a D or withdrew or whatever, get my GPA back up. And then even then, when I got into my, made up my classes, I was always on the bottom of the list because I was not involved in any science programs or anything like that, or MECHA, or you know, pretty much anything that can, uh, any clubs that involve you with science classes or engineering classes. I wasn't in the list. So I got involved more in school because as I started getting more classes, I started figuring out, like, hey, who do I have to talk to get out of here, because I'm not trying to be here 10 years. I'm trying to get out of here. I kind of know what I want to do. So I started talking to professors, fellow classmates, which to this day is pretty cool. I still actually have a lot of good friends from community college who actually, some of them actually know some of our classmates. They work with each other. They work with Trenton, in
Oh,
an aerospace field, and I have them on like Facebook and all this stuff, which is really really cool. I've known them since my high school as well. So it's really cool, refreshing to see people that you grew up with like make it and that you still communicate with, which is badass. But again, once I got more involved and started talking to more friends, I got more advice. They told me join this club or join this program. It's going to actually put you on the priority list. And once I did that, literally every semester, I would get dibs on all the science classes and all the math classes. I was on the priority list to get calc level two, physics level two. So I would always sign up before anyone, and then I was able to get my units. And before you knew it, when I was actually super involved in school, I was getting 15 units every semester, and I was able to finally catch up and take so many classes that by the time I hit Cal Poly, I was usually always ahead of the curve in terms of my status to graduate, which was really good. And I didn't have to pay as much, for the units at Cal Poly since they transferred over.
so I have a question. Um, I guess you mentioned that you were failing some classes at community college and you eventually dropped out, right?
Yeah,
Um,
So
Uh,
you could take a W, if, or if you don't, then you have to take an F, I guess, if you don't withdraw within time.
mhm. What advice can you give to people that were like in that similar situation that you were in? People that I guess lost motivation and like, after so many attempts, they still can't pass certain classes or um, have just.
To be like I said kind of earlier, it's just be honest with yourself. Just really kind of reflect on what you really want to do, because we have all the time in the world, and you can always say like with me, especially like, hey, it's never too late. But at the same time, the sooner you do it, and the sooner you have a goal, and uh, you can focus on it and really narrow it down, the better it is. When I was failing, it was in part I could say, like what I where I think I really succeeded a little bit more was in shorter term classes. So because not to say maybe I do have some kind of ADHD or some hyperactivity disorder where I can't focus for too long or something, but I felt like in semester classes I would always excel, but after that 10-week period or something, or that 11-week mark, when there were 16 weeks or 18-week periods, it's like, oh man, I'm worn out. But whenever I took fast track classes, they just 8 weeks or 10 weeks, and they were in and out, and I felt like I succeeded more. They were obviously a lot more heavy, but like I said, it was just like you went in and out. That's kind of how I felt. Obviously, it's kind of per preference, I would say, if you're your student, but that's kind of maybe something you could look at as well, because if you feel like semester system might drag a little too long with the 16-week system or something, maybe a quarter system university might work. And that's kind of what I liked as well about Cal Poly, where for 10 weeks you were kind of getting your butt kicked, but you were able to get a lot of stuff done, and you were just like, at the end of it, you're like, wow, I accomplished so much. It was pretty crazy. So, and the other thing I kind of missed this previously, Ricardo. I meant to say, like, with work and stuff, how to balance it is, just be honest in terms of, you need money, especially coming from our background. But I would say get financial aid if you can. Obviously, be responsible with how much you get and how much you feel comfortable with getting. But if you're gonna be in, like, career when you finish, you don't worry about it. That's what one professor told me before I transferred. He's like, just get the money, dude. Don't worry about it, because you'll pay it back. I know it's a lot. I know you don't come from wealth, or you don't have a lot of cash, or you've never seen this amount of money, but don't be scared. Sometimes it's about taking a risk. You have to take a quote unquote a leap of faith. You have to jump over the cliff before going looking down, because you might think you're not going to make it, but you have the strength to make it. When you come from a tough background, you fought this hard to reach where you're at. Um, so always be honest with yourself. There was always a lot of times where I would always work. Like I said, I was actually working for Home Depot for 12 years, my whole career, essentially from community college up to Cal Poly. Even after I graduated from Cal Poly, I was still working with them for an extra year while I was still looking for another job in my field. So uh, you have to be honest with your managers. Be straight out with them. And if you're about school, you tell them like, hey, dude, my focus is school. I'm here to be a good worker and help you guys in your company or whatever you work in. Be a hard worker as well. Show them that you appreciate them. And in turn, what happened with me, I felt like a lot of my coworkers really respected me. And whenever I needed something off, or whenever I needed to change my schedule, or whenever I needed to only work 20 hours a semester, they would say, okay, you can only work 20 hours. Okay, you only want to work on the weekends. Okay. So build bonds, build friendships with classmates, with coworkers, family, um, and it's an invaluable thing, especially with us, because we don't have a lot of wealth, especially if we're first generation. So our wealth is our friendships. That's what I would say. It's not about monetary stuff. A lot of people have that upper leg because their families been lawyers for generations. They've been engineers for forever. Maybe your parents are first generation engineer. You're going to be a second generation engineer. But again, for us, I don't know. I feel like a lot of my friendships, a lot of my family, a lot of my just coworkers and people I met along my time really, really helped me out as well.
Yeah, that's a great point. Saying, um, our wealth is our friendships, and I definitely felt wealthy while at Cal Poly. There is, I think we made a ton of good bonds, ton of good friends there. Working through those late nights. I know one thing that really that like sticks to my mind was I just couldn't get this code to work. I think you remember. I think you know what they were talking about.
Were
And
you
like,
with four fucking computers? Just
Oh.
different.
yeah,
Yeah.
that was that was probably like one of my favorite memories. Like I swear we all worked on that code, and like mine for some reason couldn't run.
Yeah.
So yeah, I had like four computers,
Yeah.
four computers in front of me, line by line by line, looking for where the difference was. Um,
What's funny, dude, is again, not to say it's like fate or nothing, dude, but I was actually thinking about that memory about like maybe last week, dude, or a week ago or 2 weeks ago. You know, I'm like, that one time freaking Ricardo was over here with four laptops that couldn't figure out the code. He's borrowing everyone. So yeah, man, struggle, but that's what makes you tough.
Yeah, do you feel like that's also like shaped the way you approach like life and school in general is just from your past experiences? And
But
like
yeah,
what
man, definitely, dude. Like I said, dude, you're sometimes when you're young and you're naive, you make a dumb choice like me thinking like, oh, let's go for money. We're gonna work and it's all gonna work out because this is what you see on TV or, you know, this is what you're kind of used to. You don't even have a role model. You've never seen someone in your family graduate from high school or go to college or anything like that. So you don't really have anyone as a mentor. So you just think that, oh well, sometimes this is, I guess you could say it's a generational curse where you think, like, oh, my life is just to have kids, or, not even that, just to work. And it's like, well, maybe there's more to you, but because there's sometimes no mentorship in your family or, your first generation, or, sometimes the people don't even have any role models. They quit on themselves. But again, it's being about being honest with yourself, what you really want for yourself in life, and just always ask that. And if they're ever unsure, just maybe take a step back, take a deep breath, and take a look at the bigger picture instead of just everything you focus on. Because it's always sometimes bad just to always just focus and focus and focus, and you're unaware of your surroundings. So, always take a step back and a deep breath and catch up.
Yeah. How did you, as a recent grad going into the industry, how did you go about like being new to the environment and to your job? Um, how did you
So,
go about
so for a while, not gonna lie, I'm gonna blame these guys. A lot of pressure, not Ricardo, especially because he actually stayed in school, but all these other guys, like I said, I've been working for Home Depot for 12 years, so it was kind of my job. I finally, when I graduated, become full time because I was not doing anything else. So I'm like, now I can work full time. So I was working 40-hour shifts and overtime and stuff like that. But I felt a lot of pressure from these guys because we have a Discord group channel that we talk through. That's how we kind of communicate for the most part, unless we call each other or text each other directly. But for the most part, these guys are like, "Hey man, I already got a job. Hey man, when are you gonna get a job? Hey dude, what's going on with your job?" And I'm like, "Bro, I'm looking. I'm applying every day. You guys don't have to keep reminding me every goddamn day that I don't have a job because it's a little demoralizing. It's really good for your friends because you feel happy for them, but like at the same time, it's like you don't have to keep putting a lot of pressure on your friends, which is why I kind of sometimes stay away, but not stay away from you guys, but don't like to question a lot of your guys' stuff unless you guys open up about it. Like if you guys bring up some of your guys' issues, then hey, it's because you feel comfortable about it. But if you're not really talking about you not having a job, it's like, well, I'm not gonna ask him about it because I'm assuming, Ricardo or Edgar or Saul, they're actually all looking for jobs. It's not like we're just sitting on our butt. But it was a good struggle for a while, simply because um, you apply and then an hour later, a day later, you get a rejection notice, and you're like, "What the hell, dude?" So it's kind of working my resume every day, changing stuff every day because I was like, "Well, this isn't working. Let me try this." Sometimes I'd apply to the same position with different resumes just to see if I'd get a different response. And for the most part, I was getting denied, denied, denied. So then one day after again, I applied probably to like 200 positions or something. General Dynamics in San Diego, they gave me an interview for an internship, and I think the first one was just a phone interview, and it was pretty short, just general questions, kind of more of like who I was, why I kind of applied there, a little bit about my background, where I came from. So they gave me a second interview. Second interview was in person. Second time, I kind of got a little bit cleaned up, put on a dress shirt and everything, a tie, suit. Went in there, and when I went in there, I kind of sat in the car probably in like an hour because they actually told me, "Oh, study a little bit. We're gonna ask you some engineering questions." I was like, "Oh, crazy! I've never actually had an interview like this. You're used to just like one interview and you're get the position, But now we're in engineering, so I'm like, whoa, this is professional. It's kind of cool. So go in there. It's a facility. They had like key cards. Had to get buzzed in. I'm like, whoa, this is actually getting legit. Like, you can't come in here without getting buzzed in. There's security. They check you. Um, so met the supervisor. He took me into a room, and he just goes, boom, put this thing, on the counter. He's like, how would you model this on SolidWorks? What would you use? And then I guess I was like, whoa, what the hell, dude? Like, he just kind of attacked me, right? Like, so it was not like a real right or wrong answer. I think it was more of wanting to get an understanding of how your brain works, and if you have the capacity of, if you can't figure it out, trying to figure it out. Because in SolidWorks, especially, or anything model CAD related, there's 100 ways to make the same thing. It just depends on how you make it. Sometimes you can make it in 3 features, or sometimes if you're a beginner, it'll take you 10 features, depending on how much of an expert you are. So I gave him my answer. He was like, "Okay, man, that's pretty good." And then he kind of came back and he's like, "But I would do it like this." And I'm like, "Oh, that's a better way, man." He's like, he's like, "It just comes with time. Your answer was not bad at all or anything. It's just that's how I would do it because I've been doing it so many times. I'm used to making these things." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's pretty cool." So he kind of gave me some immediate feedback. He also got the model and kind of pointed at different things on the actual physical part and told me, what do you call this? Like, oh, this is a chamfer or a fillet or some different things. What kind of hole is this? Through hole, threaded hole, whatever different features. And then he asked me a couple of GD&T things like, how would you control this feature? How can you identify certain things? So what I would say that's super invaluable is GD&T definitely. Every company is super heavy on that, understanding just geometric tolerances. Um, you don't have to be an expert because most of these companies will pay for like professionals to teach you again in case you forgot or you need a refresher. So General Dynamics actually offered some courses. If you wanted to enroll, you could take them on the side. Um, so again, it was a pretty. It was intense, but it wasn't super hard. So I left. I kind of felt like, hey, I could have done better, but I did as good as I could have. So I didn't feel disappointed or nothing. But I went home, and I think the next Monday, which was still on a Friday, they offered me the internship, and I was super ecstatic because um, I had not gotten any experience before. This is going to be a major change. Uh, I had to quit immediately from my job, and again, because I had such a good camaraderie with my manager, I told him like, "Hey, dude, I'm not coming to work on Monday. Sorry, dude, I have to do this." And then he's like, "You know what? This for your career, bro. I'll let you take a leave of absence." So I didn't quit. He actually let me take a leave for like 7 months, and I was still gonna have my job when I came back in case the internship didn't, retain me. Um, so when I got in there, I said yes. They were paying me a lot better money than what I was making at Home Depot. Obviously, it's not like super engineering money, but definitely a big upgrade. And initially, I would say it depends on your company that you're with, but the initial experience was a little difficult, kind of challenging, because I had to learn pretty much their system they use. And since I had never worked in a company, I had really no clue how to use their system. And by system, I mean their part numbers, how they track all their inventory, how to search things, and like I said, that's kind of what took me a while to get used to. And then also, I had not drawn in a while, so like if you have some spare time on your free time, I'd encourage you just use SolidWorks on your spare time just to model random things, just so you could remember how to use certain features. So, my first week there, I was struggling on SolidWorks a bit because I was like, oh man, I don't even remember using all these features. Like, how do I do this? How do I do that? But after 2 or 3 days, like everything kind of clicked, and by the second week, I was, doing everything pretty efficiently. I was interning as a mechanical design engineer, so pretty much anything with improving the process of manufacturing, so with tools. So and by tools, it's like, I was thinking, I work for Home Depot. When people talk tools, I'm thinking a handsaw, a drill. And these guys are like, no, we make them. And I'm like, wait, we're gonna make our drills? And I'm like, nah, dude, by tools, it means like literally like they'll design a wrench that can only fit at this angle, that can take certain torque, and you have to design that so that it can fit the part that they're making. Or or a forming tool, which means, something. So like where I worked is it was pan and tilt cameras where they had motors, but you have your typical motor with pistons and oil and stuff like that. This literally was used through magnets. So they had magnets and wires on a little circle, and they would run a current through it, and everything would just spin through magnetism, which was really cool. There was literally no gears, no nothing, and you'd have to make tools to like compress the copper, into different shapes. So you design those tools, different radiuses, different diameters, different, clearances. So when you put the assemblies together, they wouldn't interfere and they wouldn't damage the parts. If they did, then you'd have to, redesign the tool, or, certain times there would be parts that were damaged, and you'd have to investigate what was the cause. Sometimes it was the tools, and by that I mean like wear and tear. After pressing so many times, they're made out of aluminum, so sometimes they would get, you know, the damage on them. So you have to replace the tools. So again, you have to, keep track of all this through their inventory systems, through their different computer, whatever they use, and that's kind of was a challenging part. After that, it took me about 3 months actually to get my job at Blue Origin. So I think what really helped, was having that experience on the resume, because as soon as unfortunately, they couldn't retain me because it was an internship only. But luckily, I still had my job. I went straight back to Home Depot, and like I kept applying everywhere while I was still, interning. And as soon as I got let go in March, within 2 weeks, Blue Origin sent me an email like, "Hey, we want to give you an interview." Got my interview through the phone. It took about 30 minutes. It was again a little bit more personal, like who, background, who are you, where do you come from, what do you like to do, why are you choosing us? And then this one was way more intense. So they called me on like the following week, and they're like, "Hey, we want to give you a second interview, but this time we're gonna make you with 5 people." And what do you mean? And I was like, "What do you mean? It's gonna be a panel. It's gonna be a 4 hour interview." And I was like, "Whoa, 4 hours! Like, damn, this is intense." And they're like, "Prepare a 1 hour presentation with two projects that you've done, technical. There don't can't be any like, you know, technical. I mean, you have to have some like analysis and math kind of stuff, science, pretty much, why you did this experiment or this project, and then you're gonna have a 30-minute interview with all 5 of us individually. So it wasn't like 30 minutes and they're gonna interview me all five at the same time. It was one guy at a time for 30 minutes. So if you think about it, that's 2 hours and a half of interviews plus your presentation. And that was just your second round of interview. And I was like, whoa, I've never done this. This is super, super crazy. I'm kind of nervous because this is kind of legit. And this is not for an internship, it's an actual job. So I kind of really want to do this. And then the last part, they actually required me to have a essay, um, write them an essay of why I wanted to join their company, and like kind of like it was kind of a personal, like how I can contribute to the team and stuff like that. So that was my Blue Origin interview. It was pretty intense. As always, I felt like I could have done better. At the end of it, I kind of felt like, oh man, I missed that, but I knew the answer. And again, don't sweat it too much. Just kind of study a bit, refresh on your fundamentals, because most of the questions they asked were a lot of fundamentals, but also they want to see how you think, and how you approach scenarios. So they would ask me like it's kind of logical, but at the same time, you have to kind of think if it's really logical to some people, because they would tell me like, hey, dude, well, you have a rocket. This is the scenario they gave me. You realize, everything's all assembled. It's about to shoot. Your managers are, going to send it to launch in a month. You did your analysis and you realize there's a frequency that's off. You need to go inside and remove a bolt and weld it with something else that's much stronger, because otherwise it's going to mess up. What do you do? It's going to cost you a lot of money, and you guys are going to have to delay the launch by another, potentially another month or longer. But your managers need to launch this. What do you do? And again, as an engineer, you kind of have to make decisions of, based off facts. And if you think it's like I straight out said, well, it depends on the scenario. I said, if it's a safety concern, then it's a no go, no matter what it is, because this could potentially blow everything up, and then that would just destroy the whole project. There'd be no point in launching it. If it's something that maybe we can live with. I'd have to have an analysis done or data that can back it up, and I show it to my manager and be like, hey, look at this. There's some risks associated with this, but it's gonna cost us X amount of money plus time, and it's not really worth it. But if we shoot, we have 95% probability that it's still gonna be successful, and if that's okay with them, then it's the manager or your management's call. And if you deem something can be disastrous, you call it up as an engineer, because at the end of the day, the number one priority would be safety. You don't want to start sending stuff up, or making things that are unsafe to public or just in general, because no one's going to want to work with you at the end of the day if your project or your product doesn't work. Especially for safety or catastrophic failure and stuff like that. So luckily, as soon as I got my interview, they called me right away. They offered me a position, and I was super ecstatic. It's in Seattle, which was a super big move, but I keep telling everyone it's kind of like my lottery ticket. It's a once in a lifetime opportunity. I couldn't say no. Um, I was getting interviews from other companies. I had an interview from General Atomics, which is another aerospace company down in San Diego, but they're stationed in a bunch of places. Unfortunately, these guys, uh, they hit me up a week after I had accepted my Blue Origin position, and they were like, "Is this Edgar Yanis?" And I'm like, "Yes, this is him." He's like, "Hey, we've been trying to reach you, and we actually wanted to offer you the position here in San Diego." And I'm like, "What?" And they're like, "Yeah, we accidentally offered it to another Edgar who interviewed on the same day as you, and we sent them the person the wrong email. So we actually felt super bad, and now that my manager actually really really liked your interview, and he wanted to offer you the position." I'm like, "Oh man." So I'm like, when it rains it pours, you could say. From zero positions or zero offers to everyone kind of wanted my my services, and unfortunately I had said yes to Seattle. I probably would have stayed in San Diego, to be honest, just because all my family, I was my rent is over there super cheap, because I lived on my own trailer and stuff. Only paying about $700 in rent for a four-bedroom house. So I was living pretty comfortable down there, which is why I was able to also to manage with my other job at Home Depot for such a long time, because my rent was super low compared to the national average and stuff. I think you're paying 2,000,
Yeah,
1,500 for one
yeah,
bedroom. It's ridiculous.
rent's so ridiculous in
Yeah.
California.
So all those things kind of factored in. At the end of the day, it worked out the way it was supposed to. And I couldn't say no to home or Blue Origin once I made the commitment, because I was talking to one of my coworkers from Home Depot, an older gentleman who worked there for 30 years. But what was cool about him is he actually got his degree in biology. But it's a sad story with him. Super smart guy. he was kind of my mentor. And at Home Depot, I learned everything from him. One of those old cranky guys that you meet there, that mixes paint and what are you doing, young kids, kind of like that. But he knows everything, right? Once you get to know him, he's the sweetest old man. He's like your grandpa. He used to be in telemetry for the Air Force. So he told me that he would be stationed in like the Philippines or some crazy islands, and he would shoot rockets, and then he would go and catch the payloads when they would arrive back. So it was kind of all like full circle. He said he wanted to do aerospace, so like when he heard that I was graduating, he was like almost in tears, like "You're living through me, Edgar. I'm so proud of you." And I'm like, he's still one of my best friends. I consider him
Mm,
one of my best friends. So um, yeah, it's like I said, full circle to everything, dude. So
it's pretty amazing.
That's pretty cool. And we're like, yeah, super proud of you and for, getting those jobs and those interviews. And I'm sure it was such a big relief. Like, no, it's crazy how that little, just having that one experience opens so many doors. and
Hmm.
yeah,
and I'm sure you'll see in the future with your experience at Blue Origin, there'll be so many more doors opened. and
yeah.
and so like so that leads me to like my next question is like what are you looking forward to? Like, do you really want to build with Blue Origin? Do you or are you
Yeah.
trying to like what are you excited about in the next like years to come?
So to be honest, man, Blue Origin compared to General Dynamics was a whole total 360 company because I felt General Dynamics was more of your legacy kind of company where they're old school. Everything's already kind of set in stone. So even though everything's set in stone and everything's production ready in terms of like, everything should be just rolling out, it's super slow in terms of to do changes, to do any like engineering approvals and drawings, it has to go through a chain of command. And sometimes just to get one signature, it takes like about a week. What I really like about Blue Origin is, especially here in Kent, there's three different sites. This one right here is a research and development slash a little bit of manufacturing, which is where I'm at. I'm the manufacturing side. But since we're in research and development, as an engineer, I have like so much freedom compared to my other job where I can make a change and I don't really have to check, have like permission from anyone. As long as I deem it's a good enough change and I have engineering reason to, and as an engineer, that's kind of what your job is, up to your discretion, but also with factual scientific evidence and analysis of why, supporting evidence essentially why you're making your change. And I do that all day, and I don't really have to ask anyone, and we don't have to wait for like a week. So it's pretty refreshing being able to do that. So I kind of really see myself initially. What I really liked about Blue Origin is for like every Monday when I got hired, they were bringing in like 100 new people, 100 new people, 100 new people. So this company is like expanding, like insane right now. I think we're still hiring a lot of people. So if you're gonna graduate, I would say just apply. If you're already graduated, apply as well, and just keep applying because there's a lot of opportunity, especially right now, to come in. And we're in a stage right now. I feel like where SpaceX is kicking our butt, but that's a good
SpaceX,
motivation.
I didn't mean to wear this.
It's, but it's a good motivation for us because we have to compete, and if you don't have any competition, you don't really have any motivation, I would say, or motivate yourself a little bit slower. So everyone is right now has the mentality of let's make this product, let's get it out. We want to see us fly. So that's kind of where I'm at. I really want to see this, and I really want to stick for with Blue Origin for a while. But it depends, to be honest, like on the management. If I don't see like them getting their stuff together, in terms of being able to integrate the whole product and getting us up there, I want us to go to the most innovative company. Like I want to see stuff go to space, pretty much. Doesn't matter what company you are, but I want to see myself make a difference eventually. And Blue Origin right now, like I said, I have faith in them that that they can get their stuff together, especially because of the parts that I own. All the turbo machinery, I would say they call it the heart of the engine because you get your fuel and you have your oxidizers, and you literally pretty much pressurize them to insane speeds and high temperatures and pressures. And when they come out, it comes out at such high thrust that it's what essentially without my part, nothing can fly. And they call it the heart of the engine, which is pretty cool. Um, and hopefully here, I want to move higher up. So there's a big opportunity, especially right now in Blue Origin, since I feel like we're growing as a company, for new engineers or engineers that haven't had experience to, go over there, show what they're made of, and move up the ladder fairly quickly. You know, my manager actually just moved to a different position, so we had an open position. It just got filled by an interim manager, and the manager that filled it up was like a level three engineer. So I'm a level one. I've been there a year, and I feel like I've gained a fair amount of knowledge to where my year review comes. I'll probably ask for a level two engineering position, and all that entails is you have more knowledge of your product. You can train others. You can speak to you're a subject matter expert essentially. So you can guide newer engineers. And since there's a lot of shifting going around, I've kind of had to drink from the fire hose, you could say, because I haven't had maybe mentors in my position because they left to become supervisors or other departments. So I've had to learn on my own, which is another thing that you also have to keep in mind. It's always go into these new positions with an open mind. Don't expect to know everything, but again, it's about making bonds and relationships with people. I have a really good friend now that we started together the same day, and he actually first job as well. He graduated from LSU, so he just graduated this past year. Um, and he was struggling like me, but now we're in the same program, the 3U program, and we feel pretty connected. So like if he hits me up for anything, I know kind of what he's talking about, and vice versa. So we have a pretty good team. Yeah.
That's good. It's important to have like bonds and like create friendships at work. Um, I, on the other hand, didn't have that much at my job. By the way, I quit my job. If you don't know. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, you have to have a job that you feel fulfilled in, and I feel like that job wasn't meeting my needs, or like it wasn't making me happy. But
Nice.
looks like you're happy, so that's good.
Yeah, and like I said, and Ricardo, hit the nail right on the head. Is when you get a position like this offered to you, you can't say no because just putting it on your resume will open so many doors for you. I believe because um, it's one of the premier companies out there right now. Even any startups, like Relativity trying to shoot their 3D printer rocket yesterday. It keeps getting scrubbed, but you know, what's cool about that is like you could be our competition, but I want to see everyone succeed at the end of the day because if you succeed, that's just gonna push my company to go faster, and not let off the pedal. And I think that's what you want to do as an engineer. Secretly you want to be the innovative one. You want to be the one that shoots things first, or reaches new heights, with new inventions and stuff. And if you don't, then maybe you need to consider your degree as an engineer because um, that's kind of how I feel. I was always curious about taking things apart and making new things, and math and science and stuff like that.
Cool.
Sorry, I have one more
Okay.
question.
Yeah.
Um, so you moved out of like California, where your whole family's from. How did you cope with like moving into a new state on your own? And because I know for me, when I was at my internships, it was hard for me to leave, because my family's here. So I've always wanted a job that's close to home. But you like moved like two states away, so
Well, again, it's just I think it was more of it was like a double-edged sword, you could say, because the same thing that was driving me to stay was the same thing that drove me to get out, you could say, because all my family's there. That's what you know. But at the same time, it was like my lottery ticket, like I mentioned earlier. So when you win the lottery, you only, or when you have that one chance, you're one in a 200 million or whatever. Like you have to take it. So again, initially I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna go to Blue Origin just because they're gonna give me that name brand that I could put on my resume, and then I'll just come back to California. Now that I came here and I see how the inner workings of this company, I'm kind of excited because like these guys have a pretty cool goal. Like if it wasn't for that, maybe it'd probably be more motivation for me to start, looking for another job in California back again or something. Um, but again, it was like you said, that was the driving factor. Is just I have to take it because if I don't take it, I don't know when I'll get this opportunity again. And again, maybe if I would have said no, General Atomics would have hit me up the next week, and I would have stayed in San Diego. But you can't ever rely on stuff that you don't know. Like if I would have known that, then obviously I probably would have stayed in San Diego at General Atomics. And they're more of a legacy company, I would say. So it's more like General Dynamics, where everything's kind of set in stone. So I was even thinking about that, and I'm like, you know what? Maybe I wouldn't be as happy because it would have been an integration engineer for an aerospace. So that wouldn't be Astro, which is outside in outer space. This would be like for a drone. And I'm like, you know what? I'm interested in like drones and jets and stuff like that, but space is much cooler. Don't ever let anyone else tell you not. But um, yeah. So like when I actually moved out here, it was difficult, and it still is because I'm kind of a particular case. I wouldn't say like maybe some people can relate to me, but I know maybe more people can't relate to me than they are. I kind of like to be alone. I'm more of an introverted kind of person. I'm pretty extroverted when I get to meet you. So like if you're a really good friend like you guys, I won't shut up. I keep talking and talking.
You're not
And
an introvert.
but yeah, exactly. I'm not right. But to me, I consider myself like I don't want to talk to people. I don't want to meet new friends because I've already met too many people that they're all in California and I don't even hang out with them, which kind of makes me sad. So I'm like I don't want to make new friendships and then they move away and then I get sad again. But again, if I meet you then and we vibe, then I guess I don't shut up. But what was kind of cool about being over here is does give you a lot of time to yourself. So you can do a lot of things that you want to do. So I have a lot of time to work out, something I didn't have over there. I would work out over there, but with everyone around, you sometimes get lazy. Since I don't have anyone over here to talk to, I'm like, well, what am I gonna do? I guess I'm like in prison. Let's just work out, man. And it's paying dividends. I feel stronger, and stuff like that. I also read a lot of books. So actually, not going to school, I have free time to read like my manga and stuff, horror classics, um, play video games, and what's cool is I do go out with my coworkers. I try not to bug them a lot because I see them 5 days a week. So it'd be like, hey, dude, let's hang out Saturday and Sunday. You're gonna see me 7 days a week. So I try to give again like people space, just because I wouldn't want to hang out with myself every day, even though I already do. So, um, but yeah, we actually went snowboarding for the first time. I had never actually seen snow because I'm from San Diego. So when does it snow? Oh, the year that I leave, right? Like
Oh
last
yeah.
week, which is like kind of crazy. I've never snowed in my entire existence, but the first year I leave, what are you guys doing in California, man? Blowing it up over there. Um,
It's been
so
crazy.
yeah, that's another thing. I actually saw snow for the first time, which was super cool. And I went on a snowboard. I totally sucked. Totally different than skateboarding, which is what I do. Go from San Diego. That's what There's no snow, so you just skateboard everywhere. But totally different. But it was super fun, and I got to do that with my coworkers. I've explored the area, so I've gone to Mount Rainier, which I had never even know what the hell Mount Rainier was, and I'm kind of scared now because I didn't realize that I'm living next to a volcano.
Oh,
So,
what?
Yeah.
and it's actually the biggest volcano in the west coast of the United States.
Oh, is it still like? Is it?
I think it's dormant right now, but I think it's active where it can potentially explode. And I was and
Mm,
because I didn't know about this and I freaked out. I'm like doing all kinds of research. So then I guess it can be pretty dangerous if it's a massive explosion. It can actually
mm.
reach up to where I live, and the only actual area in Seattle that would be safe would be like downtown Seattle. But everything else would be like pretty much overflowed with lava because it's such a huge mountain. Um, so I got a like an annual pass to go whenever I want. It's quite a drive, but it's beautiful. So if you guys ever come up here and you guys want to go up there, instead of paying the $40 day trip, I decided to just buy the pass for $50, and you could go there and limit it throughout the year. So it's pretty
Nice.
cool. Um, and and what I do like, and I guess I do really appreciate, like I was saying earlier, it's just I used to live in like trailers and apartments for such a long time that now just driving here on the freeway, it's pretty nice. Like it's beautiful. Yeah, I'm driving in the middle of trees, and in Cal Poly, it was kind of similar. You could say is a little bit more tree-ish, farmish land, but San Diego is totally different. Literally, you drive on the freeway and you see houses, concrete. So just seeing all these like Christmas trees, driving through the snow. It rains a lot, but it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, that reminds me of another story we had when um because I'm from the area, so it's all pretty familiar to me. It's all like agriculture. There's a beach
Yeah,
and some hillside mountains, and getting to learn people at Cal Poly, they're from a city. I'm like, well, what's a city? And like,
yeah,
I don't have an idea of people actually like living in a city and not really getting out of it.
yeah,
I think I asked you one time if you needed to change your oil.
No, you
yeah.
did.
And I was like, yeah, yeah, just come to this little like farm town, and it's like, don't worry, you just take a left and a right, and you'll be there.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I think that was an experience for you.
yeah. Definitely, dude. How was your experience? Because you went to LA too, right? So you went from farm boy to big city, man. So how
Yeah,
was that experience, man?
it was fun. Yeah, it's definitely different because there's a lot more things to do in the city.
Yeah,
It's you can go downtown and definitely see all these different cultures. I know where I'm in this area, it's usually just Hispanic or um, like white. It's in the
yeah,
area. It's really common. But going to the city, you see all these different cultures. There's like Little Tokyo, Chinatown. There's
Koreatown.
Yeah, there's so many fun things to do, and I think that's what I really appreciate about the city. But it
Mhm.
is kind of fast for me.
super
There's
fast
times
paced,
where
right?
yeah, it's
Yeah.
super fast paced, and it's like, man, and then you have to like plan your day out where it's gonna take me an hour to go from like
Yeah,
one place to
yeah.
another, and then it's
So,
just a
so,
lot more
so
planning
once
versus
once you become a local, I feel, dude, that you learn the secret passageways, dude. So like that 1 hour drive that it takes like people that are not locals, you could shave it down in like 20 minutes, dude. But you'd have to live there for like 5 years or something, to
to
be able to
really
do that
nail
kind of
it
yeah.
down. Yeah,
When I went to
but
San Luis Obispo, dude, what really got me was um, that there was like nothing bigger than like a 3-story building or something, dude. Like what the hell? And I'm used to like skyscrapers. You go to LA or SD, and it's downtown is like downtown. It's a big old skyscraper or big old building. So I was kind of like, where am I? Why did I pick San Luis Obispo, man? But I'm glad I did.
yeah, it was super fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, so just one more question before you head out, and I think it's one that might reflect back is kind of like, what advice would you give your younger self now that you are where you are? Do you have if you can reach out to someone that has a similar background and just tell them one thing?
um, to be honest, man, I don't think I would change anything in the world, dude. To be honest, because I met all you guys, all my connections, all my friendships. I'm where I want to be. I feel really comfortable, dude. For the first time, I could say in my life that uh, I'm kind of stress free, which is really cool. Before when you're poor, you're like, what the hell? And I'm not saying I'm like rich right now or anything like that, but like I have a good amount of money where I'm not really worried about it. And if something does happen, I'm like, okay, I have money backed up. Before I'm like, shit, man, I might not be able to get it or something. Or I might have to work overtime or something. But what I would tell myself, the only real thing I would tell myself, to be honest, is if I could go back in time, is ask questions, especially if you're nervous about them, because you're not the first person to have these questions, and you're not going to be the last person. And I guarantee you that someone has already been through this, so they can guide you the right way. And once you make a choice, like really stick to it. If you want to go for school, focus on school. There's going to be a lot of parties and a lot of friends, a lot of bad friendships, a lot of good friendships, a lot of bad influences, and a lot of good influence. So it's up to you to really make that choice at the end of the day. Like, no one's really going to be responsible for like your choices, but what you do have control over is what you focus on. So if you want to go for school and that's what you really want to do, is like really focus on that. And when you really do focus on it, you're gonna find that you're gonna finish really quick. You're gonna reach your goals faster than you were expecting, and then before you know it, you're gonna reach that goal and you're gonna have your degree. So, if you don't want to go for school, there's nothing wrong with that either. I have plenty of friends who are in culinary arts. They became chefs, became probation officers, and are moving up the ladder. My brother didn't go to school. I'm pretty proud of him too. He was never really into school just because he was kind of one of those bad kids, I guess. But now he's a probation officer and he's moving up the ranks. So it's just about focus. If you really want to reach your goal, if you really want to reach a dream of yours, focus on that. And like I said, the other one was just ask questions to everyone and anyone. Don't be scared. I know you are, but at the end of the day, if you're scared, you're never gonna know the answer. Just jump. It's a leap of faith.
Assassin's Creed style.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I think those are all the questions. Thank you, Edgar, for sharing your story. It's very inspiring, and I'm sure it'll motivate some people to rethink of like their goals and their dreams. That it's never too late to go back to school, or never too late to pursue your dreams. And you're a good example of that. So, props to you, and we're proud of you.
Thanks.
Yeah, we'll
Well,
have to.
again, go ahead, Ricardo.
Yeah, we'll have to go up and visit you, and then you'll have to come down and visit us too. So
Yeah, definitely, dude, definitely.
There's not much
But
here, but
uh, you guys are still in slow, right?
yeah,
yeah,
Okay, cool.
yeah.
Yeah, definitely, man, definitely. But just wanted to say thanks for having me on your first podcast, your first live, visual and audio. So really appreciate that. It's an honor, like I said, and yeah, hopefully you guys have success in this. And shoot me the link. I subscribe, and everyone else on this channel subscribe. Brood Minds.
there you
Yeah,
go.
thanks, Edgar.
Yeah,
And we really appreciate you taking the time out of your weekend just to share your story. It's, again, very inspiring, and it's pretty amazing what you're doing. And yeah, thank you.
thank
Yep.
you guys.